Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right at work, and still, somehow, something started shifting against you? Like the rules had changed, but no one bothered to tell you. There are workplace rules nobody explains until you've already lost a promotion, damaged your reputation, or even lost your job. They're not in your contract. They're not covered in training. Your boss won't teach them to you, and HR probably won't either. But these rules decide who gets promoted, who stays stuck, and who ends up burned out, overworked, and wondering what went wrong. A lot of people don't miss opportunities because they lack talent. They miss them because they understand the system too late. This video is not motivation, it's a warning, so you can stop calling it paranoia when it may have been a pattern all along. Rule number 1. The company may talk like a family, but it makes decisions like a business. On Monday, they call you family. By Friday, they eliminate your position in a 15-minute meeting. Companies use the language of belonging because it works. People work harder when they feel like they're part of something bigger. But that feeling of belonging does not change what is happening underneath. You give them your work, and they pay you for it. When that exchange no longer works for them, they change the terms. No drama. No visible guilt. Just the cold calculation of a business decision. The loyalty you feel toward your company deserves to be examined, and a large part of that loyalty needs to be redirected back to yourself. Because once you understand that work is a transaction, what happens next hurts less. You don't see it as betrayal. You see it as logic. And logic can be anticipated. The problem is not that the company acts like a company. The problem is that you keep expecting it to act like a family. Rule number 2. Not everything unfair at work is illegal. Your boss always favors the same person. You get ignored in meetings. You receive fewer opportunities than people with less experience. All of that can be completely real and still be completely legal. And that is one of the most frustrating parts of adult professional life. Realizing that feeling wronged does not always mean you are legally protected. The law does not protect you from unfairness in general. It protects you from discrimination based on specific protected categories, such as age, gender, race, religion, national origin, and others. So if favoritism does not cross that line, there may be no legal case, even if there is a moral one. A bad manager can micromanage you, damage the team culture, and make your work life miserable without necessarily crossing a clear legal boundary. This is not legal advice. It simply means you should not confuse a feeling of injustice with a protection strategy. At work, being right matters, but knowing what to do with that truth matters even more. Legal clarity does not always bring immediate justice, but it can keep you from wasting your energy fighting in the wrong place. Rule number 3. When you talk to HR, good documentation matters more than being right. You walk into HR thinking you're asking for help, but from that moment on, every email, every meeting, and every performance review can start becoming part of a record. HR may listen to you with empathy and still act to protect the company. Not because the people in HR are automatically your enemies, but because their job is to manage the company's risk. And if what you are reporting could cost the company money or damage its reputation, then you become part of the risk they need to manage. From that point forward, the conversation is no longer just human. It is also administrative. That is when the more frequent check-ins begin, the distance from people who used to be close, the comments that did not exist before, and the sudden attention to things no one used to question. In that context, how you say something matters as much as what you say. One angry sentence in writing can weigh more than 5 months of good work. One impulsive message, or one emotional interpretation, can distract from what matters most: the facts. Do not document to vent. Document to protect yourself. Write down facts, dates, what was said, and the context you can actually prove or describe objectively. Do not document what you felt. Document what happened. Go into that conversation knowing who you are talking to, and go in with documentation already prepared. Because once a conversation becomes part of a file, every word starts to carry a different weight. Rule number 4. At work, not every truth needs to be shared. What you said just to vent may later be used as proof that you were no longer committed. Oversharing at work has a cost that many people only understand after they have already paid it. Not because your coworkers necessarily have bad intentions, but because once information leaves your mouth, it is no longer under your control. And in an environment where layoffs can happen without warning, what you shared about your plans, your exhaustion, or your doubts can come back at the worst possible time. You do not need to tell people you are looking for another job. You do not need to explain that you are burned out. You do not need to say you are thinking about quitting. You do not need to mention that you are waiting for another interview. And you do not need to share a decision that is not protected yet by a real exit. Even nice people, under pressure from management, can repeat what they heard at a moment you did not expect. Be kind, be present, be collaborative, but keep to yourself what does not need to belong to everyone. At work, discretion is not coldness, it is protection. And if any of this already sounds familiar, pay close attention to the next rules, because these are the ones many people only understand once the company has already started pushing them toward the exit. Rule number 5. Sometimes they don't fire you, they wear you down until you leave. If a company wants you out but does not want the risk of a formal termination, it has a very clear incentive to create conditions that make you want to leave on your own. Not every uncomfortable change is a plan against you. But when several small decisions start pointing in the same direction, you need to pay attention. First, they take away your visibility. Then they change your responsibilities. Then they start demanding more from you while giving you less context. You are no longer invited to certain meetings. You are given tasks that are almost impossible to do well. You are asked to explain things no one questioned before. No one openly says they want you gone, but every decision pushes you a little further in that direction. The goal is for you to be the one who decides to leave, so the company can say it was your choice. For them, your resignation is often cleaner, cheaper, and easier to defend than firing you. When you feel that pressure building, do not minimize it. Ask yourself whether you are dealing with normal workplace difficulty or a strategy to quietly push you out. That difference changes what you should do next. Because when a company wants you gone, it often does not tell you, it makes you feel it. Rule number 6. When they want to push you out, they first need to change the story about you. For years, your work was excellent. Suddenly, everything needs correction. An employee who had positive reviews for years can suddenly become someone with multiple performance concerns. Not because their work changed, but because the story the company needs to tell about that person changed. This can happen after a complaint. It can happen when someone decides you no longer fit the plan. The process is simple. Build a record that justifies an exit that may have already been decided before the record even existed. Before, you were reliable. Now they try to make you look difficult. Before, your initiative was seen as independence. Now they call it a lack of alignment. Before, asking questions showed commitment. Now it looks like resistance. Before, solving problems quickly was efficiency. Now they say you do not follow the process. Before, your emails were enough. Now every message needs someone copied. Before, your decisions were accepted. Now every detail seems to require validation. That is the most dangerous point. When they are no longer evaluating your work, they are building an explanation for removing you. If you suddenly start receiving criticism that does not match years of previous feedback, do not wait until the story is fully built to start saving evidence, organizing dates, and seeking guidance. When a company has already started telling a story about you, it is not enough to know the story is false. You need proof to challenge it. And once the file has enough weight, that narrative becomes very difficult to reverse. The company benefits when you do not understand these rules, not because everything is a conspiracy, but because almost no one inside the company gains anything by explaining them to you. When you understand how the game works, you move differently. You do not become cynical, you become clear-eyed. And there is a huge difference between the two. Because when you understand the rules, you stop waiting for the system to explain itself. You start moving with strategy. That is why your job can be your income, but it should never be your only exit. Keep your network active. Keep your skills updated. Keep your options open. Clarity is not about living in fear. It is about having choices. If any of these rules made you think of a specific situation, hit like, so this video reaches someone who still thinks all of this is their fault, and subscribe with notifications on, because in the next video, we're going to talk about the specific signs that a company has already started building a narrative against you before they even tell you there is a problem. Because many times, getting pushed out does not begin with a meeting, it begins with a story.